Hi, and welcome to the War Room. When I first started the War Room podcast, I knew one thing for sure. I didn't want it to be a conversation with analyst relations professionals only. I wanted to hear from the people on the other side of the table, the ones signing the checks, the ones working with the consequences of technology decisions long after the pitch decks are gone. In today's episode, I speak with Pedro Martinez Puig, who spent more than 20 years as a CIO and CISO, leading teams and making high stakes technology decisions. I hope you enjoy the episode.
My name is Pedro Martinez. I'm originally from Barcelona, but over the past 25 years, I had the privilege of living and working across the globe. I've been in Mexico, in the US, Colombia, Venezuela, China, Germany, and now we are living in Brussels, in Belgium, very happily located between our two grown-up daughters, one living in Barcelona, Carlota, and one living in the Netherlands, Paulina. I've been working in IT for 25 years across industrial, consumer, and fintech sectors. And one of my proudest achievements was serving as the global CEO for Orbia out of Mexico and living in a multinational that went through a huge digital transformation for an industrial and B2B business. We work before the COVID years, so it was a great preparation to make even those years a very successful process where we keep on growing. We kept the costs under control, and we must say we were prepared to go through this very difficult process. In the last year, I've been working in Edinburgh, and has been an opportunity for me to also understand better the fintech world and the tech solutions made for a company that the value is coming from tech and changes drastically the way when you are in an industrial or consumer. I love to work in IT, but I believe that what sets me apart is that I love the human first approach for the digital transformation. I care deeply about the people and the processes behind the technology, and I am passionate about solving challenges that affect the teams and the organizations that at the core. And so looking forward to have this conversation with you and learn more about the process of deciding and making decisions in your tech stack and how you manage that forward.
Thank you very much, Pedro. And you mentioned that you're a great believer in the human first approach to digital transformation. Can you talk to me a little bit more about this, and what do you mean by this?
So it's very common that when you are confronted to managing the tech team, you are focused on IT, and you put IT on the center. And we need to force ourselves to understand that technology, it's always a mean, never an end. It's way more important the way you are organizing this change, the people that is going to enjoy what you're setting up, and the processes that drastically change. So from the starting point to the way that you want to go. And that means that you need to change the way you communicate. You need to give the reins to what it matters the most. And this is never IT. So that's why for me it's difficult to say that I am an IT person that puts IT not up front, because it's a joint work, especially with people, teams, and processes.
And how do you get people on board with the change? Because it is understandable that some people will fear losing their jobs. Some people don't have all of the necessary skills. There might be a need to reskill some of those people, and also some of them, especially if they're kind of towards the end of their working career. How do you get people on board to make that change?
it is the key question of how you onboard and bring people to this new boat. The big thing that has changed lately, Lena, is that now technology is everywhere. So I remember 20 years ago, the IT team were these weirdos and freaks that nobody understood, and okay, do whatever that you believe needs to be done, and we follow you. Now technology is everywhere. I love to see my mother having video chats with me, having WhatsApp group. When 20 years ago that was inconceivable. So we are all in this digital world. It's very difficult to avoid it, and that makes that is more present in everybody in the organization. And on the other side, the time has shrunk. So these big programs that last 3, 5 years, no, now it's programs that last a few months, a year, and that brings that even for the ones that we are closer to retirement, that starting our work life, there's still a lot of cycles that we need to love and enjoy. So it's key to bring everybody in, because at the end, every transformation is based on what you leave, not what you leave behind, but what you bring from behind to the future. And therefore you need the people that used to work in a certain way to keep that rails and to keep that experience, and then the ones that are bringing to what is coming next. So it never needs to be a zero game where you leave people behind. There will be losses because rotation is normal, but it's very important that the transformation brings the past to the future, including the organization that will play this new game.
Can I ask you, for those, because we do have some listeners from the US and from areas outside of Europe, just to tell us a little bit more about Edenred, the company, what it does, where it operates, and just to tell us a little bit more about it.
My last 4 years were working in this French multinational. They have a very big focus on employee engagement and employee benefits, and everything that the company needs in order to the employees have these extra perks from Ticket Restaurant. That is one of the most known product in Europe, but also solutions for the fleet. So the person that has a car can charge that car, or can put the gasoline, or to maintain their cars. It's also a company that takes care of the new payment ecosystem, where those solutions need to be very secure, authorized, and controlled. So Edenred is bringing end-to-end solutions for companies that would like to provide to the employees some extra benefits, solutions to make their life easier while they're working, and also a major player in the payment transaction.
You've been a CIO and a CTO for many years. How do you approach the build versus buy decision in a company where technology is not really part of the core offering?
Well, that's very interesting. A lot of my years of experience has been this traditional, we must say, industrial or manufacturing, and here the make or buy, I must say that it's quite distinct from digital native or startups, because here you are competing with a lot of other investments. So you have money that needs to be for new companies, for new acquisitions, new products. So the IT realm needs to be very careful in terms of the cost efficiency of what you are choosing, and definitely the priority is in the stability of what you are managing today. So it's while there is not an exact rule or what is right or wrong to make it happen, you need to consider that you are playing a different game when you are in the manufacturing and in an industrial realm. So I would say that the way to look at that is to make the right choices, to not affect the operation, to have the right choices, to be very effective in what you do, and to look at both the implementation of a new solution and the way that you will be maintaining, because that is what marks the financial case, and that makes one or the other choice more appropriate for the moment that the company.
Can you give me a real world example from your experience when you chose to buy instead of build in-house the technology? And what were the decision factors for this?
So you first look at how mature is the solution that you need for the moment. It's very different to look for back office solutions that have been in the market for a long time and that are very stable and quite proven and they provide best practices versus a solution that needs to be very niche or market specific and there are not so many competitors providing in such. This is one element. The second element is how your team is prepared to manage that solution or to build that solutions, the type of organization that you have built, the level of collaboration with the product team, if you have a product team, so that marks your capabilities, and then it's a link between the company strategy and the tactical choice that you need to put at the moment. So you go through this process, you look of what is available, what are your resources, both capacity in team and also financials, and then you present best choice and you move forward.
I want to pivot the conversation now to a more tech native company. And how does that play a role in influencing the decisions about the technology stack? How does being a tech native company compared to a traditional industrial company influences the technology strategy that you're going to have?
I must say that the biggest difference is the managing of the legacies. So when you are in an industrial manufacturing, you will be in 100% of the cases managing a huge stack of technology that comes from decades and years of development, of buying, without probably having a very strong architecture or governance. So you have been growing by the flavor of the decade, making big investments, and this is something that you cannot forget because it's the pieces that are keeping your operations running. Digital native companies are not having that weight on their backs, so the choices could be bolder. So I can give a try. I'm normally at the beginning of my go-to market, so I can make mistakes in a more open way. And I believe this is the major difference to have a blank sheet of paper where you can design from the scratch versus a very complex legacy that you need to keep alive at a proper cost and 24 hours up. So you cannot you cannot leave that falling down. So in a way, you have a lucky strike when you are starting in these new tech companies or digital companies, and if you have proper financing, it's very joyful to bring those to solutioning. On the other side, you know that money is not infinite, and you have only a small period of time in order to make the process happening. So the timing also on decisions and bring this entity to life are much shorter than in a traditional company where it's part of your portfolio and therefore you can fail in one or three and nothing will dramatically change. The stakes are higher in this digital new environments where you need to provide something because otherwise the money will run out.
Many new technology vendors will target enterprise companies, whether they're established banks or they're established other businesses. However, you mentioned that those established businesses and traditional companies have a lot of legacy systems in place that they still need to keep in operation, they still need to maintain. From a technology buyer's perspective, how can a vendor ensure that they are not adding to your technology stack unnecessarily and that they are reducing the impact of their technology and reducing the technology debt that the enterprise company will essentially have?
Hmm. I believe, Elena, this is a key point where you find out who could be your strategic partner versus a very tactical that is trying to sell you the new shiny Gen AI solution. And the strategic partner will always look at what do you have today, what is your architecture, because there are things that are incompatible. So especially when you find out that still your central systems are based on very old versions of ERPs, 100 pieces of technology that are really, really some decades old, but they're still the core of your transactional operation. So they need to help you of how to live the new, cohabit with the old. Because we are talking about very lengthy life cycle of application that you cannot take it out and very easily replace. And therefore, when the vendor wants to know more how your architecture is, wants to know more what could be replaced, what could be adapted. You cannot apify an AS400, and then you find out things that are impossible. So for me, number one, when the vendor looks at you and wants to know more about your deck, and when proposes ways to evolve with you, and ultimate get rid of that stack, but this is not going to happen, not this year, not in 3 years, not in 5 years. They find out the rhythm to make this collaboration successful. So for me, one of the key points is when the vendor starts talking about their product and do not talk about you, that's a bad signal because they didn't understood your problems and therefore they're providing you a solution or a medicine for an illness that you don't have. So that's normally a good eye opener of how the discussion starts with a new tech vendor.
Would you say that this plays a major part in the decision making if a vendor really partners with the company, really partners with your team, with the business teams, and provide solutions that will be in place and they are able to support in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Would that be a major factor in the decision making?
I do think so. At the end, when we talk about sustainability, among other things, is about the long-term perspective that we are here for, not for making a big blast and then disappear. No, we want to be here for the long term. So the way that this plan is not only a shiny new piece that will light and then disappear, but it will be integrated in your platforms. It will be evolved with your platforms and eventually will help you getting rid of layers of legacy. That makes a big difference.
Tell me a little bit more about your experience. Have you ever regretted building a solution instead of buying one? And what happened?
The regret normally is not happening in a way that it was a lost cause. Is more what you would have done different and how you learn from the case. Because I don't want to give specific examples, but there were more in the way that the organization was not ready to work in that way than the product itself. But the solution was as good as any other solution. But you find out that the organization was not ready to go through that process. And what said, when you are setting a project that should have been 3 to 4 months, and then it goes to the year and the things are not going well, you understand that you had not prepared the organization properly to this kind of iteration thinking, of being in the early stages, defining what you do need, and then you confirm it and do short iterations and you move forward. So I believe the major regrets have been trying to go through do it yourself process when the organization was not ready at all to go to that path.
Mm-hmm. How important would you say is the company culture in making technology choices, especially in an innovation-heavy project?
Culture, it's something that everybody says is so important, but nobody knows what culture means. You probably know what culture means when you are making key decisions and you find out that there is a disconnection between what we say and what we finally do. So culture is essential, and you can see it in the way that you are rewarding the people. Okay, a project that was successful is well rewarded and properly making the party, everything went well, and so on. And a lot of times you forget about that party part. But also especially in the failures, and when you see decisions made because of a failure of a project that sets up people gets not only not promoted but gets fired, or there is a big backlash when you could have learned a lot from that failure, where you should have integrated new guardrails or new standards that will permit the next time to do it better, you are denying the basic learning that you require for a company that needs to innovate. Because innovate means that you will make more failures. That innovate means that you will not hit the right target, but then that shot will help you to be better and calibrate the next one. So for me, the way that you reward and the way that you react to success and failure, it's key to see if the culture is the correct one.
So you talk about success and failure, but how would you define when a project is successful and when it's a failure? What does that mean? Because it can mean many, many
Yep.
things.
So traditionally, you go to the easy path of determining that a project on time, on a spec, and at the cost that you meant, you do the three checks, the project has been a success. And that part, in a way, needs to be kept in the core of the organization, because at the end, that requires you to learn, okay, spend more, okay, why, well, okay, took me more time, so in which stage we stop, or the quality was not what I meant, so was a problem with understanding what was the problem that we were solving, etc. So this basis we should not forget, because at the end we are here to make a change on the time that is expected, because there's a lot of people waiting for it, in the cost and in the quality. And then once that is happening is where that, irrespectively of if you match the three or not, the way that you will provide this learning to the next project is what makes that even a failure is also a success, because it will avoid you wrong investments, and will make your decisions better calibrated for the next time.
As a CTO or as a CIO, how do we market to you? How do you find the potential partners, potential vendors that you're going to buy technologies from? Is it a team effort? Is it just you kind of doing some research, whether it's a research or you are going to trade events, industry events? Tell us what is your secret? What is the secret sauce to market to a CTO?
I wish I knew it. I can tell you the ingredients that I put in the sauce, and but it's also always depend on the market you are in. For me, number one is never forget your clear accountability within the process. So it's something that at the end will determine how successful you have been, in order to make, if not all the bullets hit the target, at least the fundamental ones did it well. And this accountability you cannot forget. So that's why you're here, and you need to make it happen. Then it's such a shared responsibility that makes that the team effort goes in all dimensions, because you need to partner with your financial colleague that brings the thresholds, the financial possibilities. This is your possibilities based on the capacity that you have, that you would never forget. You need to partner with the marketing and sales, that are the ones that are receiving every day the complaints, the big hiccups of what we are putting there. So we can choose the battles that will really make a difference versus others that would be nice to have, but will not have any impact. You need to partner with your HR colleague that will tell if the capacities are correct, if we need to revision deeply the way that we are attracting talent, developing talent, rewarding talent. There is nobody that you can ignore in order to make this thing forward. And at the end, and that will be a twist, you need to create heroes. So you are not here to be the king of innovation and everybody pleases you. No, you have been the one facilitating that you got a hero that bring a new product very successful to the market, and that's the one that needs to get the medal and the stripes. Or you have reduced the cost significantly, changing the way that you are delivering this process, and their operations is the one getting the medal. So you are here to make heroes, not necessarily to be the hero yourself, because at the end, you are not going to sell, at the end, you are not going to talk with the customers, you are not going to be the one producing, but you have been the one facilitating that innovation change. That would be my recipe. Hopefully can be used somewhere else.
When you're evaluating external vendors or partners, what criteria do you use and what criteria do you prioritize to do this?
The basic Maslow foundational need is always price and scalability. So that's something that you need to look at. You need to look at efficiencies, and this will always be the threshold that you need to consider. So for the same service, what is the price tag? What is the way that you can flexibly escalate, downscalate, and make this a win-win situation? So for me, that's the basics. The mindset that they bring to the table is fundamental. We mentioned before the way that they are interested in what you do, and before selling the product, they know what is your strategy, what is your main compatibility tech. So there has been some effort to selling you something that will solve a problem and not only something for growing your hair magically. No, it's not what I'm looking for. And for me, the critical criteria is the way that they react when the heat explodes in the company. So when you have a major problem, and the way that they will respond, and you can give examples even when you are evaluating of how they respond to crisis, because that is what distinguish a strategic partner from a customer vendor relationship. So having a problem and sharing the same sense of urgency, the collaborative mindset, they are with you on the table and they are sweating the same way that you are sweating when you have a problem, determines that this is the right partner that you pick. So these three elements, of course, because you cannot go always with the more expensive, you need to check the cost and the scalability. You need to find out that is a long-term player, and this is one of the pieces that will tell you on top of the pure sustainability choices that they do, and that would be probably the values that you share. And it's one of the things that always needs to be in that list. So how they're handling sustainability in the way that they produce and operate, and then you find that this fits or not with the values of your company.
And let's talk about more about out of the box solutions versus tailored versus custom built systems. What is your take on this, and when can you expect to have a out of the box solution? You might need to tailor something or build it completely for your needs.
In a way, it's something that will change more rapidly than in the past. We mentioned about these architecture guidelines or governance that will help you making the right choice, but those guidelines now are changing every 6 months or every year, because the market is providing solutions faster, and what was something very niche now becomes a standard, and then therefore now is ready for you to implement through. The concept of appification and modularity works at your advantage if you are able to prepare your systems to that path. And there would be moments where the module would have all the sense to build it yourself, and you will make it in a very small investment, something that could last you 1 year, 1 year and a half. That in the past was impossible. So thinking of an implementation that was so short term was not possible because of the long waterfall methodologies to make things happen. But today they are. So focusing a very open architecture that will let you to make that switch. Nothing in the market appropriate, I'll build myself. I said that middle layer, that piece of code that will help me to solve that problem, and maybe in the new release of the vendor, this is already embedded in the product, that I have been flexible enough to solve the problem, something that fits and that makes me survive that heavy problem. In the future, I will check. That's why those standards are important. but keeping them updated are even more important.
Mhm. So you've gone through the whole process. You've shortlisted certain companies that are potential partners. You've evaluated them. You spoke with your colleagues. You had lengthy discussions. Who makes the final decision to buy particular technologies? Who says, yes, let's sign a contract and writes the check?
Well, going back to the accountability, you as the tech responsible of the unit needs to be the one that signs the contract. You may not be the legal representative because in some of the contracts you need the legal representative sign off. But this sign will never happen if you have not signed it before, formally or mentally or in a one-to-one, because at the end you cannot lose that accountability. So it's a team effort in all the way. So when you are in that final stages, legal enters into the picture, purchasing also confirms that the terms and conditions, etc., and then it's time to sign. And now maybe not with ink, but with electronic means. You can't escape for that ultimate accountability. It has been a team effort up to the way, and now it's the moment to make sure that what it was promised, it happens.
Troy, I want to gather your personal insights from your years of experience working in various environments, and you've worked in structured corporate environments and in more entrepreneurial settings. Which is your personal preference, and why would you choose it?
Well, this is a way the question of who you love most, your papa or your mama, and I cannot say that I love more one or the other because they're both fantastic places to enjoy what you do and to make the difference. And I think that that's the key, Elena, because when you find that you have the agency to do stuff that matters, doesn't matter if it's a big company or a small company. Sometimes you are super stretched in a startup, and sometimes are super free in a big company. The understanding that your agency is there, that you have normal limitations, but the room of maneuver is so intense and interesting to do things better, is what makes your work living and happy. So I can be happy in both with mama and with papa.
Pedro, you've worked in various markets. You've worked in Europe, you've worked in Latin America, from Mexico to Venezuela to Colombia, and you've also worked in Asia in one of the biggest markets, China. Can you tell me what did you see the differences are in those markets, and in terms of buying technologies, in terms of innovation, and just share some of your experience in working in those very different markets?
I mean, keeping a continuous open mind of how things could be different or how your cultural constraints do not work in every situation is key. So it's difficult to choose one country that works better with. It's more how to make the more than the sum of the parts, and that requires that you go to a certain level where the team effort is really pure, because otherwise the terms from somebody in China of what is long term versus the short term in the US can create a chaos when we are finding out what are the steps to move forward, what we need to do now, what we need to do later. So it requires really a huge open mind to find out again the reason that we are here doing, with whom we are going to work, with whom is the recipient of this platform and solution, and how these persons are going to enjoy that. And that requires a lot of tears, a lot of putting yourself in shoes that you are not comfortable with. There is no better or worse culture. There's only differences that you better enjoy, and the more you know, the more you love it. So I wish there would be a key differentiator per country, per region. This could be the source of an encyclopedia of organizational psychology. But it has a lot to do with the way that you approach change and the way that you empathize with people that do not necessarily think like you, and that makes an even more exciting working environment.
Pedro, thank you so much for your time, for your insights, and for your input. It has been amazing having you.
Thanks very much, Elena. Having a conversation with you, it's a rare pleasure, and I wish we will repeat it soon.
Thank you.